It all started when a bunch of us crazy daredevils decided to explore an abandoned asylum on the outskirts of town. You know, the kind of place that gives you the creeps just by looking at it. They called it Shady Brook Asylum, and trust me, it lived up to its name. It was this colossal, old building, all decayed and falling apart. We had heard stories about it being haunted, but hey, we were young and dumb, and curiosity got the best of us. Late one Friday night, we gathered at the entrance, armed with flashlights, and hearts pounding like crazy. The place looked like something straight out of a horror movie. I mean, broken windows, overgrown vines, and that feeling like you're being watched even when you're alone. My buddy, Mike, he's the fearless type, or maybe just the most foolish one. He was leading the way, stepping over debris and ignoring the warnings scribbled on the walls by past adventurers. "Turn back, and abandon all hope, ye who enter here," in all caps. But we were having none of it. As we ventured further inside, the air got heavier, like a suffocating blanket. And the silence, man, it was deafening. You could hear a pin drop, and every creak or distant rustle made us jump like scared kittens. The place was a maze, and it felt like the walls themselves were shifting, guiding us deeper into its dark secrets. We stumbled upon a room with weird symbols painted on the floor and walls, and we figured some teenagers must have been playing occult stuff here. But it was more than that. It felt wrong, you know? That's when we found the old file cabinets, stacked with documents that were all about some twisted experiment. It was called Project Nightfall, and it sent shivers down our spines. The papers spoke of human testing, electroshock therapy, and mind-altering drugs. It was like something straight out of those old sci-fi horror movies. As we kept exploring, things got weirder. Cold spots appeared out of nowhere, and some of us heard whispers in the distance. We laughed it off at first, blaming it on our imagination and the spooky atmosphere. But deep down, we knew something wasn't right. Then, we stumbled upon the underground level, and that's when things took a real turn for the worse. The air down there was damp and smelled like mildew and death. I can still hear the dripping water, echoing in the darkness like some eerie heartbeat. In the distance, we saw flickering lights, like candles dancing in the shadows. We followed them like moths to a flame, drawn to the unknown. And that's when we saw it, a room filled with old beds, like a hospital ward, and at the center, there she was. A girl, pale as a ghost, lying on one of the beds, her eyes wide open, but she didn't seem to see us. Her gaze was empty, hollow, like she had lost her soul. But what chilled us to the bone was the fact that she was surrounded by weird symbols, just like the ones we saw earlier. Mike, always the brave one, approached her, calling out her name. But she didn't respond, didn't even blink. It was like she was trapped in some other dimension, unreachable. And that's when we heard it, a low, guttural growl, coming from all around us. We turned around to see the other patients, or whatever they were, standing in the shadows, eyes glowing red like demons. Fear clenched our hearts, and we bolted out of there, not looking back. But the asylum didn't want to let us go. The halls shifted and twisted, trapping us in an endless loop. Every time we thought we were reaching the exit, we'd find ourselves back where we started. It was like a sick game, the asylum toying with us, enjoying our terror. As we kept running, we heard voices, disembodied and haunting. They whispered dark secrets and called us by name, like they knew us better than we knew ourselves. I felt my sanity slipping, and I knew I couldn't take it much longer. Just when we were about to give up hope, we found ourselves back in the underground room, facing that pale girl again. But this time, she smiled, a twisted grin that sent shivers down my spine. And then she spoke, not with her voice, but with 1,000 voices, layered in agony and despair. "Welcome to my nightmare," she said, and that's when we knew we were doomed. Turns out, the asylum wasn't just haunted, It was alive, feeding on our fear and tormenting lost souls for eternity. We were just its latest victims, trapped in its never-ending nightmare. I stepped through the rusted gates of the carnival attraction, and a chill crawled down my spine. The air felt thick and heavy, and the flashing lights seemed to taunt me, urging me to venture deeper into the darkness. My friends, Sarah and Mark, were right behind me, their nervous laughter barely masking their unease. The cursed carnival attraction was the talk of the town for weeks, and we couldn't resist the temptation to see what all the fuss was about. Legend had it that the attraction was cursed by an old fortune teller who was wronged by the carnival's owner. From that day on, the carnival was plagued with misfortune and mysterious accidents. As we made our way through the maze of tents and rides, the atmosphere grew more eerie. The laughter of children and the sweet smell of popcorn were drowned out by a haunting melody that seemed to seep into my bones. The carnival was alive, but not in a way that brought joy. It was as if a malevolent presence lurked behind every corner. We finally reached the entrance of the attraction, and I hesitated for a moment. Sarah and Mark exchanged nervous glances, but their curiosity matched mine. With a deep breath, I pushed the heavy curtain aside, and the three of us stepped inside. The first thing that hit us was the darkness. It was as if the attraction was shrouded in perpetual night. The only source of light came from flickering candles, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The air was thick with the scent of dampness and decay, and I could feel the presence of something unseen, something that watched us from the shadows. The attraction was a twisted funhouse, with mirrors that distorted our reflections in grotesque ways. I couldn't recognize myself in the warped glass, and the sight sent a shiver down my spine. Mark laughed nervously, but his voice seemed to echo and distort in the strange space. As we ventured further, the funhouse seemed to come alive. The mirrors seemed to breathe, pulsating with a sinister energy. The walls whispered secrets that I couldn't decipher, and the candles flickered with an otherworldly light. Suddenly, the floor beneath us trembled, and the walls started closing in. Panic set in, and we ran, trying to find the exit. But the funhouse seemed to shift and change around us, trapping us in a nightmarish maze. The air grew suffocating, and it felt like time was standing still. I could feel the presence of something malevolent, something that fed off our fear. It wanted to keep us trapped, to feed on our terror. The more we struggled to escape, the tighter its grip became. Just when I thought we were doomed, we stumbled upon a hidden passage. It was a narrow corridor that seemed to lead deeper into the heart of the attraction. We had no other choice but to follow it, hoping it would lead us to safety. But the passage only led us further into the darkness. The walls were covered in strange symbols and eerie paintings, and the air was filled with an unnatural cold. I could feel the weight of the curse, and I knew we were being drawn deeper into its clutches. As we turned a corner, we found ourselves in a grand chamber. At the center of the room was an ancient-looking crystal ball, its surface swirling with dark mist. And there, standing beside it, was the fortune teller herself, a spectral figure in tattered robes. Her eyes locked onto ours, and her voice echoed through the chamber. "You've come seeking answers, but all you'll find is your own demise." The room started to spin, and I could feel myself losing control. The curse was consuming us, and there was no escape. Sarah and Mark clung to each other, their faces pale with terror. Just as I thought all hope was lost, a blinding light engulfed us. When it cleared, we found ourselves outside the attraction, the carnival lights flickering in the distance. The curse had released its grip, but we were forever changed. From that day on, we knew the carnival's curse was real, and we vowed never to speak of it again. But the memories haunted us, lurking in the darkest corners of our minds. And we couldn't help but wonder, was it truly over, or had the curse simply chosen a new set of victims? The cursed carnival attraction had left its mark on us, and we knew we would never be the same again. I moved into this old house last week, and right from the get-go, I felt something off. There was this dollhouse in the attic, and it gave me the creeps, I'm not kidding. It was like the dolls inside were staring right into my soul. But I brushed it off, thinking it's just some old junk. First night in the house, strange noises kept me up. Creaks, whispers, and faint giggles echoed through the walls. I tried to blame it on the wind or rodents, but I knew something wasn't right. The next day, I took a closer look at that dollhouse. It was meticulously crafted, like a mini mansion, but there was something twisted about it. The dolls had these unsettling grins, frozen on their porcelain faces. I tried to shake the feeling, telling myself it was all in my head. As the days passed, things got worse. Items went missing, only to reappear in strange places. I'd find the dollhouse in different spots around the house, like it was moving on its own. But that couldn't be true, right? Dollhouses don't just up and move. One evening, I heard music coming from upstairs. Soft, eerie music box tunes filled the air. I followed the sound, and it led me straight to the attic. And there it was, the dollhouse, doors wide open, and the dolls inside dancing like some demented ballroom. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I must be going crazy, but the sight remained. Fear gnawed at me, but curiosity got the better of me. I reached out to touch one of the dolls, and as soon as my fingers brushed against its cold skin, the music stopped, and the dolls froze mid-dance. The air grew heavy, and I felt a presence watching me, seeping through the walls. I decided to do some research, hoping to find an explanation. Turns out, the previous owners of the house vanished under mysterious circumstances. The rumors spoke of a cursed dollhouse, housing the souls of restless spirits. At that moment, I knew I had to get rid of it. But getting rid of the dollhouse was no easy task. Every time I tried to throw it out, it would reappear in the attic the next day. I even tried burning it, but it was like the thing was invincible. The dolls grew more malevolent, their grins turned into twisted sneers, their eyes glinting with malice. I felt trapped, like the dollhouse was toying with me. Every night, the haunting escalated. The dolls would walk around my room, their tiny footsteps echoing in the silence. They'd whisper dark secrets and call my name in haunting, childlike voices. I couldn't take it anymore. Sleep eluded me, and my sanity slipped away like sand through my fingers. I had to leave the house, but it was as if the dollhouse had a hold on me, chaining me to its malevolence. Then, one fateful night, I made a horrifying discovery. The dolls were reflections of the house's past victims. Each one represented a soul lost to the cursed dwelling. And now, I was destined to join their ranks. The walls bled, and the floors groaned as I tried to escape the looming horror. I could feel the spirits closing in on me, their rage palpable. The dollhouse had consumed so many lives, and now, it hungered for mine. In a desperate attempt, I locked myself in the attic with the cursed dollhouse. As the spirits closed in, I found an old diary hidden beneath the dollhouse. The pages spoke of rituals and sacrifices, a sinister pact that tied the house to the underworld. The truth hit me like a sledgehammer. I was never meant to escape. The dollhouse lured me here, wanting me to become part of its twisted collection. I was just another piece of the puzzle, a puppet dancing to its dark tune. I began scribbling my own final entry in the diary, a desperate plea for someone, anyone, to break the curse and save me from this living nightmare. But as the ink dried, I knew it was hopeless. Now, I'm just another doll in the haunted dollhouse. My soul trapped in a never-ending dance of despair, my screams unheard, and my existence forever bound to the malevolent spirits that roam this cursed abode.